made Home Improvement work as well as it did.
I learned a bunch of acting. It was this relationship. I wanted the husband and wife to be really in love with each other.
We do a lot of Comic-Cons, and they come up and they like to tell us this was probably one of the best parts of their life.
They ran America's most watched household for 8 seasons, then vanished from prime time. But the reruns never told the whole story. Behind the laugh track and tool belts were secrets even obsessive fans missed. Who almost wasn't cast? Which star hid an entire identity? The heartbreaking losses after filming ended and the stunning comebacks nobody expected. Today, we're revealing it all. The real lives, shocking truths, hidden tragedies, and jaw-dropping second acts the cast of Home Improvement never wanted exposed. 28 secrets, all real. By number 1, you'll see this show completely differently. Some will break your heart, others will make you cheer. Drop in the comments, think you know the show's biggest secret? We bet you don't. Secret number 1. The grunt was never in the script. Let us start right at the beginning with something so iconic that it defined an entire decade of masculinity. Tim Allen's famous grunting. That caveman growl that told you more power was always the answer? It was never written into a single episode. Not once.
Hi, welcome back. I'm digging this new 10th anniversary look.
I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I think we look very sophisticated.
We're so darn proud of ourselves.
Tim Allen improvised every single grunt on the spot, and the writers liked it so much they simply stopped trying to compete with it. An unscripted noise became the show's most recognizable signature. Think about that for a second. The most quoted, most imitated, most remembered thing about Home Improvement was completely accidental. Secret number 2. Tim Allen was almost not cast at all. Before Tim Allen became the undisputed king of Tuesday night television, the producers auditioned a long list of other comedians for the role of Tim the Toolman Taylor. Allen had to fight hard for that part. His stand-up comedy about tools and masculinity was the direct inspiration for the show's concept.
I'll be back.
Where are you going?
Sears Summer Spectacular Sale.
Yet the network was not immediately convinced he could carry a primetime sitcom. Born in 1953, he was 38 years old when the show premiered.
I absolutely adore this process of you get the script on Monday and you work it to death, and by Friday night, where I love to work is Tonight Show.
Not exactly the fresh young face Hollywood usually bets on. He won them over by simply being himself, and in doing so, created one of the most beloved characters in television history. Secret number 3. Patricia Richardson was nominated 4 times and never won. Here is something that should ignite a firestorm in the comments section right now. Patricia Richardson, born in 1951, delivered one of the most consistently brilliant performances in 1990s television as Jill Taylor. Warm, sharp, funny, emotionally layered. She was the glue holding the entire chaotic household together. The Academy of Television Arts recognized that genius 4 separate times with Emmy nominations. 4 times. And she never took home the trophy. Not once. In 2026, as she approaches her 75th birthday on February 23rd,
today, I come home, and there's my wife out in the garage, where she doesn't belong.
that remains one of the great unsolved injustices of the awards season era. Secret number 4. Wilson's face was a deliberate gamble that could have destroyed the show. The producers made a decision in the very first season that most television executives would have called career suicide. They cast Earl Hindman as next-door neighbor, Wilson Wilson Jr., and then permanently hid the lower half of his face behind a fence for 8 full seasons. In the history of network sitcoms, no regular character had ever been so deliberately and consistently obscured. The gamble was enormous. Would audiences connect with a character they could never fully see? Would advertisers fund a character who could never fully sell a close-up? Would actors take the role knowing their face would be hidden for potentially years? The answer to all 3 questions turned out to be a resounding yes. Wilson became the show's philosophical soul, the voice of ancient wisdom, the neighbor everyone wishes they had. His opening line, "Hi-de-ho, neighbor," became as recognizable as any catchphrase in the show, delivered always from the other side of that cedar barrier. Born in 1942, Hindman was 48 years old when he took on this extraordinary acting challenge, and he rose to it so magnificently that audiences stopped noticing the fence within the first few episodes. They were simply listening, and in a medium dominated by visual spectacle, that is the rarest compliment you can pay to a performer. Secret number 5. The tragedy behind Wilson's famous voice. Now brace yourself, because this one never gets easier to say. Earl Hindman, the man whose gentle voice and profound advice guided the Taylor family through every crisis for 8 seasons, passed away from lung cancer in 2003, just 4 years after the show ended. He was only 61 years old, a man who spent 8 years hiding his face behind a fence, who never once got to show the audience the full warmth of his expressions, died before he could fully step into the spotlight he so richly deserved. The most beloved neighbor in television history never got his second act. That truth sits like a splinter in the heart of every fan who truly loved this show. Secret number 6. Richard Karn was a last-minute replacement. Here is a casting secret that almost nobody knows. Richard Karn, born in 1956, was not the original choice to play Al Borland.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and thank you. Accepting the people's choice.
The flannel-wearing, straight-faced, straight man who became one of television's greatest sidekicks was actually a last-minute substitute after the original casting fell through. Karn was relatively unknown at the time, and the producers took a leap of faith on him. That leap of faith created one of the most beloved double acts in sitcom history. As Karn approaches his 70th birthday on February 17, 2026, just days from now, it is worth pausing to appreciate how close we came to a completely different Tool time. Secret number 7, I Don't Think So, Tim, was perfected over dozens of takes. Richard Karn's signature catchphrase, that perfectly timed, dry, disbelieving, "I don't think so, Tim," sounds effortless on screen. But those 4 words were rehearsed, tested, and refined obsessively until the delivery landed exactly right. The timing had to be precise enough to puncture Tim's overconfidence without completely deflating the scene's momentum. Too fast, and it read as mean. Too slow, and it lost the snap. The pause before the line was just as important as the line itself.
He plays the host of a local How to Do It show who could use some lessons in his own home life.
Because it told the audience that Al had already clocked exactly what kind of disaster was coming. Karn understood intuitively that Al Borland was not just the butt of the joke, he was the show's moral compass, the one character who was consistently right. That awareness is what made the catchphrase transcendent rather than repetitive. Effortless comedy is always the hardest kind to make, and nobody on that set worked harder at looking relaxed than Richard Karn did. Secret number 8. Jonathan Taylor Thomas left to protect his own mind. The teenage heartthrob of the 1990s made a decision that nobody in Hollywood saw coming and almost nobody understood at the time. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, born in 1981, was at the absolute peak of his fame. His face plastered on every teen magazine in America, his name synonymous with a generation's first crush, and he walked away. Not because of drama, not because of conflict.
Hey Randy, you finish your homework?
Yeah.
You want to help?
No.
But because he chose education over celebrity. He enrolled at Harvard and later studied at Columbia University, making a cold, clear-eyed choice that fame was not worth sacrificing his intellectual growth. In 2026, at 44 years old, he remains intensely private and rarely makes public appearances. He walked away from Hollywood entirely on his own terms, and that is a kind of power that most child stars never get to exercise. Secret number 9. Zachary Ty Bryan's shadow life after the show. While JTT stepped away quietly and with his dignity intact, the story of Zachary Ty Bryan, who played older brother Brad Taylor, took a far more painful turn. Born in 1981 and starting the show at only 9 years old, Zachary grew up in front of millions of viewers as the quintessential American jock. but adulthood delivered challenges that no sitcom script could have prepared him for. In his 40s, Bryan faced significant personal and legal difficulties that have cast a long shadow over his early career. For the fans who idolized him growing up, his story is a sobering reminder of what child stardom can cost, and of how important it is to have the support systems that allow young performers to grow into whole human beings. Secret number 10. Taran Noah Smith saw fame, coming and ran from it. Taran Noah Smith, born in 1984, was only 7 years old when he first appeared on screen as the youngest Taylor boy, Mark. He grew up under the studio lights, survived the pranks, navigated the transition from adorable youngest child to brooding teenager, and then made a decision that surprised everyone. He walked away from entertainment entirely. Unlike JTT, whose departure made headlines, Smith's exit was quiet and complete. By 2026, at 41 years old, he is living as an entrepreneur, working in vegan food and technical design, a life so removed from Hollywood that it almost sounds like fiction. He is one of the rarest creatures in the entertainment industry, a child star who looked at fame, made his own assessment, and chose something real instead. Secret number 11. Pamela Anderson left for a Baywatch role she almost didn't take. Before she was a global superstar, before the red swimsuit, before the magazine covers, before her name became shorthand for 1990s pop culture, Pamela Anderson was simply the girl in the flannel shirt, handing Tim his tools. Born in 1967, she appeared in the first 2 seasons as Lisa, the original Tool Time girl, and her warm, shy charisma caught the attention of the entire production. When the opportunity to join Baywatch came, Anderson was hesitant. She had built real relationships on the home improvement set, and leaving felt like a risk. She took the risk anyway. That single career decision launched her into a stratosphere of international fame that few performers ever reach. And in 2026, at 58 years old, she has experienced a full career renaissance, with critically acclaimed performances reminding audiences of just how much genuine talent was always there. Secret number 12. Debbie Dunning became the fan favorite nobody expected. When Pamela Anderson departed and Debbie Dunning stepped in as Heidi Kiert in 1993, the expectation from many was that no replacement could fill the void. They were wrong. Dunning, born in 1966, brought an energy that was entirely her own, warm, grounded, consistently funny, and quickly became an integral part of the show's fabric. At 27 years old when she joined the cast, she had to establish herself in the shadow of a phenomenon. By the time the series ended, she had surpassed that shadow entirely. In 2026, at 59 years old, she remains one of the most enthusiastic ambassadors for the show's legacy, frequently attending fan conventions and celebrating with the community that never stopped loving her work. Secret number 13. Blake Clark went from hardware store to Toy Story. Blake Clark, born in 1946, played Harry Turner, the owner of the hardware store that served as the men's unofficial sanctuary on the show. He was Tim Allen's close friend off-screen as well as on, and that genuine warmth translated directly into their chemistry on camera. But here is the detail that connects 2 iconic franchises. After the show ended, Clark took on a role that would cement his place in a completely different kind of American mythology. He became the voice of Slinky Dog in the Toy Story films, continuing a legacy in the same Pixar universe where Tim Allen voiced Buzz Lightyear. On February 2nd, 2026, Blake Clark turned 80 years old, a milestone that deserves far more recognition than it has received. Secret number 14. The hardware store was the show's secret emotional anchor. This is something the writers understood intuitively but rarely discussed publicly. Harry's hardware store was not just a set piece, it was the show's emotional release valve. Every time the pressure of the Taylor household became too much, Tim could walk into that store and find camaraderie, perspective, and belonging.
And for home improvement star, these nights have a special significance.
The hardware store scenes consistently ranked among the most warmly remembered by audiences precisely because they captured something true about male friendships, the way men bond through objects and tasks rather than direct conversation. Blake Clark understood this instinctively, and his performance gave that space its soul. Secret number 15. Mickey Jones was a rock legend long before Hollywood. Here is a secret that will completely reframe every scene you ever watched Mickey Jones in. Before he was Pete Bilker, the gruff, scruffy, surprisingly sensitive member of the K&B construction crew, Mickey Jones, born in 1941, was a genuine rock and roll legend. He played drums for Bob Dylan. He played drums for Kenny Rogers. He toured the world with some of the most iconic musicians of the 20th century before trading the stage for the screen. Beneath that intimidating biker exterior was a man with extraordinary artistic range, a musician who understood rhythm in ways that most actors never could. Sadly, Mickey passed away in 2018 from complications of diabetes at the age of 76. As of this recording, we are approaching the anniversary of his passing, which falls on February 7th. Secret number 16. Charlie Robinson left. Two legacies. Charlie Robinson, born in 1945, joined the cast in the later seasons as Bud Harper, Tim's corporate boss at Benford Tools. But the secret most home improvement fans miss is the full scope of Robinson's legacy in television. He was equally famous to a whole other generation of viewers as Mac on Night Court, one of the most beloved ensemble sitcoms of the 1980s.
If you've ever sunk a small fortune into a plumbing project or gotten stuck in a roofing nightmare, the new ABC show Home Improvement is for you.
He carried warmth and authority to every room he entered, both on screen and off. Tragically, Charlie passed away from cardiac arrest in 2021 at the age of 75. Leaving behind two beloved television legacies and the ache of knowing there was surely more he could have given us. Secret number 17. Bob Vila's rivalry with Tim was completely real. Now here is where the line between fiction and reality gets genuinely fascinating. Bob Vila, born in 1946, appeared on Home Improvement as himself.
And the people's choice is Home Improvement.
Tim Taylor's arch nemesis, the man who always knew more, always built better, and always drove the toolman absolutely crazy. But the contempt was not entirely fictional. Vila's presence on screen carried a real edge because his expertise was genuine and undeniable. In 2026, at 79 years old, Vila is approaching his own milestone 80th birthday on June 20th. And the truth is, the show benefited enormously from the fact that both men understood tools at a level most viewers did not, which made their rivalry feel authentic in a way that scripted conflicts rarely do. Secret number 18. Tom Poston was a Golden Age comedy legend, hiding in plain sight. When Tom Poston, born in 1921, appeared in guest roles on Home Improvement, most viewers simply enjoyed his deadpan confusion and impeccable comic timing. What they did not know was that they were watching a man with direct roots to the golden age of American television, a performer who had honed his craft across decades when comedy was still being invented in real time. Poston was 73 years old when he appeared on the show, bringing a lifetime of mastery to every bewildered expression and perfectly timed pause. We lost him in 2007 when he passed away from respiratory failure at the age of 85, and with him went one of the last living connections to that foundational era of the medium. Secret number 19. Dick O'Neill's episode made. Tim Allen cry on set. Dick O'Neill, born in 1928, played Art Leonard, Tim Taylor's beloved high school shop teacher, whose appearance in the show carried one of its most emotionally devastating storylines. The episode explored aging, failing health, and the heartbreaking reality of watching a mentor decline.
Stand-up comic Tim Allen brings his unique brand of macho humor to the new sitcom Home Improvement.
It required Tim Allen to access a vulnerability that the show rarely asked of him, and multiple reports from the set confirmed that the emotional weight of those scenes was genuinely felt by everyone involved. O'Neill himself passed away from heart failure in 1998 at the age of 70, not long after filming, which adds a retrospective layer of sorrow to an already moving storyline. It is the episode that proves Home Improvement was always capable of being so much more than a comedy. Secret number 20. Michelle Williams' first role was on this show. Stop and let this sink in for a moment. In 1995, a 14-year-old girl with no major credits to her name appeared in a single guest episode of Home Improvement as Jessica Lutz, a girl who went on a date with Brad Taylor. That girl was Michelle Williams. Born in 1980, she was a fresh-faced teenager, getting her first real taste of a professional set, with no way of knowing that she was at the beginning of one of the most critically acclaimed acting careers of her generation. In 2026, at 45 years old, she is an A-list movie star with multiple Academy Award nominations. Her journey from the Taylor family's living room to the world's most prestigious red carpets is one of Hollywood's most extraordinary origin stories, and it started right here. Secret number 21. The show almost ended after season 3. This is a fact that has been discussed in production circles but rarely reaches the general public. After season 3, there were serious internal conversations about whether the show had run its creative course. Ratings were still strong, but the writers were worried about formula fatigue, the same disasters, the same fence, the same grunt.
But if you think getting laughs is a given for this comedy club veteran, think again.
The concern was legitimate. A show built on a man making the same kind of mistake in different ways has a finite runway, and by season 3, some felt they were approaching the end of it. What saved the show was a deliberate decision to deepen the characters rather than simply repeat the formula. Jill went back to school to pursue her psychology degree, which gave her storylines genuine intellectual weight. Wilson's backstory expanded in ways that made him less of a plot device and more of a fully realized human being. The boys grew up on screen, which is always a gamble on a family sitcom, since child actors can either grow into their roles gracefully or become awkward fits for the world the writers have built around them. In this case, they grew beautifully. The show evolved because the people making it refused to coast on what was already working. And that willingness to take risks in the middle of a hit run is rarer in Hollywood than almost any other virtue. Secret number 22. Jonathan Taylor Thomas voiced Simba. This is the connection that a shocking number of fans have never made. In the same year that JTT was at the height of his Home Improvement fame, he was simultaneously providing the voice of young Simba in The Lion King, one of the most successful animated films ever made. In 1994, Jonathan Taylor Thomas was literally everywhere. He was the voice of one generation's defining Disney character and the teenage heartthrob of their favorite family sitcom, all at the same time. It is a level of cultural saturation that is almost impossible to achieve and almost impossible to maintain, which is part of why stepping back was such a rational choice. Secret number 23. The fence changed television forever. Wilson's fence is not just a memorable prop, it is a landmark in television history. The decision to use a physical barrier to permanently conceal a character's face had never been sustained across a full series run before. It created a unique form of audience intimacy. Because Wilson's visible eyes and forehead became hyper-expressive, audiences learned to read emotion in his face with a precision that full-face acting rarely demands. Cinematographers and directors on the show have since spoken about how challenging and ultimately rewarding it was to frame those scenes. The Fence taught a generation of television professionals something new about the creative power of limitation. Secret number 24. Taran Noah Smith's onset childhood was unlike any classroom. Here is something poignant that sits just beneath the surface of Mark Taylor's story. Taran Noah Smith joined the cast at 7 years old, which means that for a significant portion of his childhood education, his classroom was a television set. He was learning to read while memorizing scripts. He was doing math homework between takes. He was navigating the complex social dynamics of a professional entertainment environment, while other children his age were playing in the schoolyard. Is it any wonder that when the cameras stopped rolling, He chose to build a life as far from Hollywood as possible. His entrepreneurial path is not just a career choice, it is the conclusion of a childhood that was always slightly too adult. Secret number 25. William Ostrander's character explained Tim Allen's entire personality. William Ostrander, born in 1957, joined the later seasons as Marty Taylor, Tim's youngest brother. On the surface, his role seemed like a straightforward addition to the ensemble, but look closer, and you will find that Marty's presence actually retroactively explains everything about Tim Taylor's personality. The constant need to prove himself, the compulsive competitiveness, the desperate need to be the most capable man in any room. When you see how Tim interacts with Marty, the teasing, the unsolicited advice, the need to dominate, you realize that behind every overconfident toolman is an older sibling who never fully outgrew the hierarchy of the family home. In 2026, at 68 years old, Ostrander remains a working actor, and his contribution to the show's psychological depth deserves far more credit. Secret number 26. The show's finale was watched by over 35 million people. When Home Improvement aired its final episode in May 1999, it drew one of the largest audiences in television history for a series finale. Think about that number in context. In 1999, there was no streaming, no DVR, no ability to catch up later. Every single person who watched made a deliberate choice to sit in front of their television at the same moment and say goodbye together. No second chances, no binge watching the next day, no Twitter threads to tell you what happened if you missed it. You either showed up or you missed the moment forever.
Our preview of the new fall season continues now with a little sandpaper and some sweat.
That kind of collective, synchronized emotional experience is essentially gone from modern television. The last decade has fragmented audiences across dozens of platforms, dozens of shows releasing simultaneously, dozens of competing storylines all demanding attention. The idea of a single episode of television stopping 35 million people in their tracks on the same evening, unannounced, uncommanded, simply out of love, belongs to a different era entirely. Home Improvement ended at the precise moment in television history when that kind of cultural unity was still possible, and it used that moment with grace. The finale was not a dramatic explosion of revelations. It was quiet, warm, and true to what the show always was, which is exactly why so many people still remember exactly where they were when they watched it. Secret number 27. Tim Allen never really left. Tool time. After Home Improvement ended, Tim Allen spent years trying to replicate its success with different concepts.
For Allen, making the transition from stand-up to sitcom is nothing short of nerve-wracking.
Before eventually creating Last Man Standing, which ran for 9 seasons and drew millions of the same fans who had loved the original. But here is the secret hiding in plain sight. Last Man Standing is essentially Home Improvement in a different store. A confident, opinionated, lovably overconfident man. A smarter, more patient wife. Kids who constantly challenge his worldview. A workplace setting that becomes a stage for his personality. Tim Allen did not move on from the Toolman. He simply gave him a new set, and audiences, recognizing exactly what they were getting, came back in their tens of millions. Sometimes the most honest thing a performer can do is admit what they are genuinely great at. Secret number 28. The real Wilson was never behind the fence. This is the secret we have been building toward, the one that changes everything, and we need you to read it slowly. Earl Hindman spent 8 years hidden behind a fence, 8 years of performing without his face, 8 years of giving one of television's most beloved performances from behind a physical barrier designed to keep him at a permanent distance from the audience. He could not rely on a smile to win sympathy. He could not use a raised eyebrow to signal irony. He could not do any of the things that actors typically use to build a relationship with the camera. He had his voice, his eyes, and the words. That was it. And yet, ask anyone who ever watched Home Improvement which character they felt closest to, which character they trusted most, which character they would most want to have as a neighbor in their actual life. And the answer, more often than not, is Wilson. Let that sit for a moment. The man the show deliberately hid became the man the audience most deeply saw.
I've been asked to accept this award to answer the question, the burning question, is there really a lower part of my face?
That is not an accident of casting or a quirk of storytelling. That is a profound truth about human connection, one that this show stumbled upon and then honored week after week for 8 years. We do not connect with people because we can see all of them. We connect with them because of what they share, the wisdom they offer, the patience they extend, the way they make us feel understood without having to explain ourselves. Earl Hindman played Wilson with such genuine warmth and intellectual curiosity that the fence became irrelevant within minutes of his first appearance. The limitation became his superpower. The barrier became his signature. And every single week, from the other side of that fence, he reminded us that the best neighbors, the best people, are the ones who listen before they speak, who carry knowledge they offer without ego, who quote philosophers and mystics and ancient traditions not to show off, but because they genuinely believe those words might help. Wilson was the show's conscience. He was the reason Tim Taylor could keep making mistakes without losing the audience's affection, because we knew Wilson was there to help him find his way back. Earl Hindman passed away in 2003 at 61 years old.
Tim, this is the 3rd year in a row that we've won the People's Choice Award.
Far too soon. He was a man of extraordinary talent who never fully got to be seen, not on screen, and not in the cultural conversation about the show's legacy that continued long after his passing. But the character he created will outlast every set, every laugh track, every episode guide, and every retrospective video that tries to do justice to what he gave us. The real Wilson was never behind the fence. He was always right there, looking straight at you, and making you feel somehow that you were the most important person in the world to talk to. That is the rarest gift any performer can give, and Earl Hindman gave it, invisibly, for 8 magnificent years, 28 secrets, 1 show, 8 seasons that shaped a generation. Home Improvement was never just about tools. It was about the gap between who we pretend to be and who we actually are. It was about the price of ambition, the comedy of overconfidence, the way families absorb chaos and still choose each other at the end of every episode. It was about 3 boys growing up in front of a nation that grew up right alongside them. It was about 2 performers, Tim Allen and Patricia Richardson, who created a marriage so believable that audiences genuinely worried about it when it hit rocky patches. Most of all, it was about the people who see through our pretenses and love us anyway. The Jills, the Wilsons, the Owls, who stand beside us after every explosion and simply say, very quietly, "I told you so," and then hand us a different tool and let us try again. That is why this show endures. Not the grunts, not the disasters, not the more power philosophy that ended in structural damage approximately once per episode. It endures because it was truthful about what family actually looks like from the inside. Messy, competitive, occasionally dangerous, and completely irreplaceable. So here is our final question to you right now. We want you to drop your answer in the comments before you click on anything else. Which of these 28 secrets genuinely surprised you the most? Which one hit the hardest? And which character from Home Improvement do you still carry with you? The one who, all these years later, somehow still feels like they belong in your life. Because the best thing about a show like this is that it was never really about the cast. It was about the people watching. It was about the families gathered around the television on a Tuesday night, the kids who wanted to stay up just a little later, the parents who pretended the laughter was for the kids when really it was for themselves. It was always about you. Thanks for being here, neighbors. We will see you next time.